Why do you go through so much self-doubt on your awakening journey? Now, if you're somebody that was really confident prior to your awakening, this is going to hit you even harder. And so in this video, I really wanted to talk about why it's so important to understand why the self-doubt is really creeping up so that you can manage it effectively, so that you're not overthinking, overanalyzing yourself to death during this process, and it is not resulting in you stunting your growth on your awakening journey and stunting your spiritual progress. Now, I want to really start off by saying that a spiritual awakening journey is not about becoming somebody new, but rather you outgrowing who you actually thought you were. You know, having those old thoughts, those beliefs, those structures that you clung to really fall away so that you can grow. This is an ascension journey, and if you are ascending, you cannot expect to be in the same places that you were before. Kind of think of this almost like a house that you've lived in for so long, but now it's getting really old and it requires renovation, it requires construction. What's going to happen as you go through that process? Well, the renovation is going to ask for those walls that you loved so much, with the paint that you loved so much is going to have to go away so that, new structures can be built. The carpet that you clung to and loved so much is now going to have to be ripped apart so that new one can be put down. And so those rooms that were familiar in the house no longer resonate because they need to fall. The only difference here is when you go through renovations, you go through, building of a home, that modeling process, you know what your house looks like at the end. And the doubt here really is creeping up because you do not know what that final home will look like. You are being asked to rely on that certainty that at the end of it all, you still will have a beautiful house to live in, something that you've built piece by piece, but you aren't getting a final picture of what that's going to look like. You're being asked to really be in the present moment, to really, sit with the unknown, understand that everything will be okay, everything will work out. However, when the self-doubt is really creeping up, you want to be able to manage it with something more positive. Meet those negative thoughts, those self-doubts with awareness, understanding that you need to honor whatever it is that you are feeling, but finding and really grounding yourself in the positivity that everything will be okay is going to be key for you on this ascension journey. So you might ask, well, why am I really going through the self-doubt? I never really experienced this before. Well, an awakening journey is not like anything you've experienced before, for starters. And really why this is happening is because the mind needs labels, it needs control, and it is now losing that. You're going through, the ego dissolution, which is going to lead you to not be able to rely on that stability that you were used to, that you were comfortable with. If you take a look at your life and you really wanted to define yourself, the past self, you would probably define it by, your hobbies, your passions, the people you hang out with, the work that you do for a living. But now in an awakening journey, all of that ends up shifting, all of that ends up crumbling. So who are you really? If you thought that that's who you were and none of those things really are a part of your life anymore, one by one they are being stripped away, then who are you? And so that, having not that predictability, not having that sense of labeling, that control, the mind is reacting with all that self-doubt that comes to the surface. And along with that also comes the doubts, the limiting beliefs hiding in your subconscious. Remember that an awakening does not bring anything new to the surface. So self-doubts that are creeping up, it's not the sign of something new that you didn't have before, but really you are now coming face to face with what was hidden. It's like having the attic or a room or a closet in your house somewhere that has not been opened in years. And if all of a sudden it's a stuffed closet, you open it up, everything that's been, stuck and stuffed in there all of a sudden comes out. And now, piece by piece, you got to take a look at it. You got to meet it with awareness so that you can really take a look at what you're dealing with and eventually find a way to release it, transmute it, whatever that's going to look like. With each thing that surfaces, it might require something slightly different. But if you see self-doubt coming up, understand and really remind yourself that this is just part of the journey. And it's really that obstacle that you must jump over, really go through. This hurdle is going to be temporary, but you will overcome it. So next time you are dealing with some negative thoughts, the self-doubt creeping up, saying, why am I going through this journey? People are going to think I'm crazy. Did I just make all of this up? Whatever those negative thoughts and that self-doubt looks like for you, am I going to be able to overcome this? Just remind yourself of, that house that's being constructed. You will be okay. The walls will come together. It's just you go through, what we call a threshold phase. And that's what you're experiencing on your awakening journey. You are experiencing the self-doubt because you do not know what's to come. And it is going to take some time for the structure to really come together. However, this is going to be key. Do not run back to your old self. A lot of people, sometimes when you're in between the old and trying to construct the new, will run back to what's comfortable, what's familiar. And I will tell you now, all you will find if you try and do this is that those old clothes that you might be trying to fit onto you, it's almost like being a 12-year-old and going back to a shirt you really loved when you were 6. If you try to put it on, it will not fit. You have outgrown that phase. That is why you're in this threshold phase. So you really want to embrace the unknown. Be okay with these doubts coming up. Be okay with facing them head on, and understand that the only way through to the light is going through the darkness. You never want to stop. If you were in a tunnel that was completely dark, you never want to stop midway. Why would you do that when you know that there is light at the end of that tunnel? You have to pierce through that darkness to get to the light. And that is exactly what you are experiencing when all this self-doubt really creeps up. But do not go back to the old, all that you've left behind, because you left it behind for a reason. If you, snap back to trying to go to that old version of you, not only will it not satisfy you, you will again, have to kind of go through what you've already gone through. So as much as you might just be scrambling for, what is this? How do I get through this? Be okay. Just bring yourself back to the present moment and understand that, moving forward is your key on this journey. Another thing you really want to understand about the self-doubt that you're really going through is that anytime you decide to do something new, something that's unfamiliar, your ego will snap back, only because its job is to keep you comfortable. Its job is to keep you doing what you know and what you've already been doing. When you step outside of that realm, it starts to create that mental activity of that self-doubt that's really creeping up, bringing up everything that it can to get you to reroute yourself back to where you were supposed to be headed. And so when this comes up, instead of getting into the panic mode of, oh my God, and feeding it with more negative thoughts, remind yourself that you are doing something right. In order for the ego to get so loud, for the mental chatter to get so loud, you must be doing something right. And that's away from the unknown. And that is why the thoughts are really getting louder. And when you meet it with that awareness, you will be able to calm yourself back down. With that, also, I want you to think about your GPS, whether you use it in the car on your phone or you actually have it, a built-in one in your car. What happens when you actually make a wrong turn when you are driving? Well, your GPS takes a moment to recalibrate itself, to relook at the route that might be best because you've taken that wrong turn. And what happens while it's doing that? You wait there patiently while, that information comes back online and you are able to still go to your destination, but just a different way. And so that is what is happening to you. Understand that when you go through this recalibration process, you need to meet it with patience, meet it with meditation, meet it with inner stillness, and you will get through it. You are, trying to rely on the unknown, that deeper intelligence, the divine, all of that knowledge, that wisdom is already inside of you. And, you're moving away from not relying on your mind, not relying on those old structures, but doing something absolutely new. And therefore, the guidance now is actually going to come from a different source. And just getting acquainted with that is going to take some time so that your nervous system can come back online in a different way, so that your awareness can be expanded. And this is not an overnight process. Ascension is not a smooth trajectory, only upward, but it has its ups and downs so that you can recalibrate, adjust, and over time you will be able to get to that same destination, but probably with a better route, and in a better way. So hang on as you, really are met with all this self-doubt. You will get through it. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this was helpful. God bless.